Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, gamers, geezers, and geeks alike. It's this episode of Fast Food Films. And you can find us live everywhere but Facebook, because I haven't got a Facebook account and I can't log in. So we're just streaming to Twitch and thingy at the moment. So if you join us, thank you very much. And everyone else knows you're going to have to miss out. This will be a special one. So in this episode of Fast Food Films, I've got Keith with me. But Keith, I'm sorry, I pointed in the wrong direction. Keith isn't going to be talking about a fast food film because he's talked about enough Nicolas Cage films. Now it's time to talk about a Sylvester Stallone film. So naturally, I'm your man. And this week's episode, we'll be talking about Demolition Man. Let's cue the timers. So tasty. Okay. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, but you're a bit echoey. Just double check that you're on the Yeti. Sorry.
I believe I am on the Yeti. Yes, I am on the Yeti. Okay. I do believe that there is a problem with Macs, especially using the encoder from Chromium-based browsers at the moment, because the video whatever it is that they use is gone shit ever since they've updated to thingy. Anyway, let's get back on with it. So I'm going to be talking about 1993's Demolition Man. Frozen in 1996, Simon Phoenix is a convicted crime lord who is revived for a parole hearing in the 21st century. Revived into society for free of crime, Phoenix resumes his murderous rampage and no one can stop him. John Spartan, the police officer who captured Simon Phoenix in 1996, has also been cryogenically frozen for a crime he didn't commit. In 2023, former cities of Los Angeles, San Diego, and Santa Barbara have been merged into one peaceful utopian society, San Angeles. Unable to stop him with their non-violent solutions, the police release Spartan to help recapture Phoenix. Now, after 36 years, Spartan has to adapt himself to the future society he has no knowledge about, which is awesome. So I've got the control room, and it's whinging at me that it can't use Facebook, which is really frustrating. I like this film. This film's awesome. I want to show you the trailer. Well, part of the trailer.
Love running this place. But in the year 2032...
This morning, Simon Phoenix escaped from this cryo facility. We are, quite frankly, not equipped to deal with the situation.
Amidst a world of peace and calm.
We're police officers. We're not trained for this kind of violence.
How was the fiendish Simon Phoenix apprehended back in the 20th?
In the end, it took just one man, John Spartan.
You mean the Demolition Man?
The conditions of your parole are full reinstatement into the SAPD and immediate assignment to the apprehension of Simon Phoenix.
Two mortal enemies.
Just dropped in to say hi.
From another time.
Pass is overtime. Time for something new and improved.
Oh, hell. Will be unleashed on a future that isn't big enough for the both of them. Sylvester Stallone, Wesley Snipes, Demolition Man.
It's such a shame because Trailer Man doesn't exist anymore. You see trailers that these days, and they never have like a sort of like a narrative over it. You know, in a world.
They always does stuff in a world. So
don't get that anymore.
It came out when this film came out when I was a kid, and I watched it. I don't know if I watched it in the States or I watched it at home on VHS. Oh my god, VHS! And I loved it. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. The first kind of opener, they have John Spartan going up against Simon Phoenix in 1996 in downtown LA, where they actually detonate and blow up a building. Which was fabulous. I'll go a bit more into that later. But it's great because you set Simon Phoenix up, and he comes across in that first scene. It's a bit Weasley, as a little bit of a prick. Doesn't seem to be physically imposing against John Spartan, but he sets him up brilliantly. So John Spartan goes down for the murder of a load of bus passengers that Simon Phoenix had killed prior. Anyway, he gets frozen alongside Simon Phoenix, and then Simon Phoenix gets out, and he does. And Wesley Snipes in this film, I think, is probably the best element about this film. He chews the fucking scenery, and everything about him is fantastic. He comes out and he knows martial arts and passwords and how to use things, and he's like kind of using the computer. It's like, oh my god, I'm fucking possessed. And apparently, when he was fighting, he fought to the point that the camera crew and filming had trouble, so he was asked to slow down his fighting because they would expect to have a scene for like 2 minutes of him beating the shit out of people, but he'd do it in like 30 seconds. It's like, do you mind just slowing it down a bit? Apparently, they also filmed him fighting the stunt people behind the scenes, which I'd love to see. So the stunt people were like, fuck it, let's try this shit out, and they put it together. It had a budget of $70 million, which translates today about 125 million. 72 people were killed in this film, according to IMDb, which is fantastic. And you come through it, and you've got kind of all the characters and stuff. So you've got the John Spartan character, who's your stoic hero person, who's the man out of time, and he's supposed to hold up a mirror to their society, given the fact that he is a man out of time. So Sylvester Stallone plays his character. And it's great. He wakes up and he starts swearing, and the machine's going off, and he doesn't know about seashells and stuff. And apparently, when Sylvester Stallone was filming this, he literally had to come off filming Cliffhanger with John Lithgow. So he'd been doing Cliffhanger, and he finished filming Cliffhanger, and he was doing the behind the scenes video bit for Cliffhanger whilst he was filming Demolition Man. So in the downtime from filming Demolition Man, he'd wander over to the Cliffhanger set, get on there, still with his Santa Angeles Police Department uniform on from Demolition Man, and do it. And you can see this if you go back, if you find the behind the scenes thing, where he's sitting in this chair in the wrong bloody uniform, but because it's from Demolition Man, talking about Cliffhanger, which is fantastic. There's a great bit in it where at the beginning, Simon Phoenix says to John Spartan, "This is cold in here, is it just me?" And John Spartan says that right at the end to him, so it kind of closes the loop off, which is absolutely fantastic. And then you've got Wesley Snipes, who was, I think this might be my favourite Wesley Snipes movie, because him as a bad guy, dude, he was just so. I was thinking about it because there's other people that could have been cast for this. I don't think anyone would have done that role justice. He seemed to love it.
He's quite a versatile actor, Wesley Snipes. I mean, he's done that. I mean, wasn't it To Wong Fu? Thanks a lot, Judy Dumas. Wasn't he a drag queen in that?
I have no idea.
He certainly was in. I recently saw him in that Eddie Murphy film. Oh God, the one on Netflix. No, Eddie Murphy. It's a brilliant film, and I completely forgot the name of it.
Oh, it's a recent one. Yes, it was like the last year or so.
And and Wesley Snipes is in that as the sort of very gay actor, and it's very, again, brilliant performance. I mean, Eddie Murphy's the standout performance, but is it Dolomite? That's the name of the film. Okay. Dolomite's the name-kicking motherfucker. But the other performance in that was Wesley Snipes, and he's brilliant. Yeah, I think he's a brilliant actor. I genuinely like Wesley Snipes. Interestingly, you mentioned the opening scene in Demolition Man. Did you notice that the Hollywood fire? They kind of cast Los Angeles as a war zone, and as the camera comes in, it flies over the Hollywood sign, which is on fire.
Yes. Yes. The other thing too is I noticed that this is something I think it was the first time I noticed someone jump out of something with a bungee rope. Yeah,
but the bungee rope doesn't. He doesn't then go back up again, does he?
No, because he disconnects it beforehand. He does it so he blows him enough and then pulls the thing like a complete badass. It was like just enough to kill the momentum so I can land like a. But I love this.
He's bungee jumping. He's fucking shooting them, and not with a machine gun, with a fucking handgun, because he is badass. I love that bit.
Anyway, going back to Wesley Snipes and Simon Phoenix, apparently he hated the blonde hairdo that he was given. He hated it to the point that it's great because I think there's an interview shortly after and he's almost bald where he shaved the fucking thing off. The moment he found out all the filming was over, he was like, quick, gone. Which was kind of fantastic. And then there was another thing at the beginning too, because he turns around and he's like, where did I put those bus passengers? I'd lose my head if it wasn't attached, which is ironic because at the end of the film, he loses his head because it's no longer attached. Going back to the fighting, he's fighting in it, especially at the bit, I think it's the phone booth, and the bit with the final fight with Stallone. He looks, in that final fight with Stallone, he looks like he could beat him. There's not many people you can say could take on Stallone and actually beat him.
He kind of does. I mean, it's only Stallone is on the ground, and it's only because Stallone has the magic blue freezy ball thing that he loses the fight. But no, Stallone is on the ground. He fucking decks.
But that's what makes a good bad guy is a character who is like a mountain, like a big thing to overcome. That's what makes a good bad guys is that kind of, how can I put it? Is they feel difficult, like a boss fight in a bloody video game. They get 3 times the amount of health, and they get to regenerate, and they get to use weapons and stuff, which you don't. But that's what made it, and I really enjoyed that. And there are some bits where he does look like he's just going to beat him. And then we've got Sandra Bullock. This was
Sandra Bullock's
first big film. She'd been in other films, but this was the first one that had a budget, should we say? A budget and a marketing budget. She plays a character called Lenina Huxley, which is weird because it's a play on the name Aldous Huxley, who's wrote Brave New World. And also, Lenina was one of the characters in Brave New World. And she was antisocial because she wanted to be on her own and she didn't enjoy sex. Because that's what Brave New World was about. Everyone was all fucked off their face on drugs and shagging and this, that, and the other, which I find quite amusing. The character was originally supposed to be someone called Laurie Petty, who quit after a few days on filming because of creative differences. I always love it when they do that. It's a job for fuck's sake. I think this is why so many English actors are employed in Hollywood, because they just get on with it. Look at Bill Nye. Bill Nye gets a film, he fucking just acts his nuts off. But apparently, what's the mush?
It's usually paid for the fact that she was shit in the role.
Well, just terrible. She's not suitable.
I mean, didn't they originally say that about what's his face on Back to the Future? Because they shot how much?
No, they didn't. They said he just didn't work. They were polite enough to say it just didn't work. There was something there, it just didn't work with what is his name? Eric Stoltz.
Eric Stoltz. Yeah.
There was a joke during the World Cup where I think it was on, I can't remember the channel. That's Funhouse now, but there was something else before. And they just kept on going that whatever film it was, it goes, so-and-so, whoever the actor was that was playing the main part, replaced Eric Stoltz after 3 weeks of filming because they felt it just didn't work. He was, that's unfortunate. But Sandra Bullock worked really well in it. It's the first time you saw her.
Yes.
God, she looks so young in that film. She looks about 20.
Well, she is. I think she was about 22 or something in that.
Wow.
One. She wasn't very old when she was in this film. Because she then went on to Speed, didn't she?
So
and unfortunately, Speed 2.
It's funny because who's the guy? He's a stapler, a dolphin. Rob Schneider.
Rob Schneider's in this,
yeah, Rob Schneider's in this, and apparently those two became real good friends. Rob Schneider, and he said something about, I've got a feeling, because she was going on about doing Speed and stuff. He says, I've got a feeling this film with a bus is going to be shit. A film with a main star is a bus. So yeah, that was interesting in regards to that. And then you got Nigel Hawthorne, who's famous for Yes Minister, Yes Prime Minister, as the aide. I can't remember his name.
The thing is, right, I don't know if I can get away with this on the YouTube screen, but the Yes Prime Minister and initially Yes Minister and then Yes Prime Minister, but it was always the line. It said, "Excuse me, Minister, did you just say bongo bongo?"
Yeah.
This day it makes me giggle. It makes me giggle. But no, he was brilliant. He played Sir Humphrey.
Yeah.
In that.
Oh yes,
yeah,
that was it. So Humphrey, because he always used to make the big speeches and stuff. And I think the one I remember was the one about the European Union, where it was just like the only reason that Britain was there was to fuck with the French.
Yes,
he explains it because why are we part of it if we don't want to be it? Because the French want to get this done, the Germans want to get that done. We don't want either one of them getting anything done. So naturally, we're here to sit in between. He was great. He only did the film because he was doing like a thing so he could get his funding for the madness of King George II.
King George.
Yeah, it was called King George in the States. It was King George II in the UK because it was relevant to who he was. But everyone was worried that no one would understand that there wasn't a prior previous film to King George. It was actually a person. So he was doing that, and I'll be honest with you, it worked out great because he was good in that. He was, for intents purposes, probably more villainous than the Wesley Snipes character, given the fact that he was a bit of a totalitarian scumbag. Oh, there's a thing about the guy. What was his name? Was it Associate Bob? The guy in the kimono?
Oh yes. The big guy, the
big fella. Now apparently there was something they left out of the film, but apparently it was put in the novelization when they turned it into a book. That Raymond Copto had him castrated so he wouldn't be ambitious, which makes him even a bigger bastard.
But he kind of just latches on to whoever's in power, and and he's a bit weaselly in that respect, and he doesn't get his comeuppance at the end because the leader of he
gets arrested. He gets cut out of being arrested.
No, he doesn't.
He does.
No, he doesn't.
He does. He gets
he goes off because he offers his services to the leader of the underground thing, and then disappears off with them. And he's talking to them, and then the leader guy puts his arm around him, and they walk off. And then Sandra Bullock and Sylvester Stallone, have that tonguing and kissing thing. Okay. That's how the movie ends.
All right. Maybe I misremembered it because I did watch it on Wednesday. Yes. So apparently Nigel Hawthorne didn't get along with Sylvester Stallone or Wesley Snipes. Probably because he's a trained theatre actor and they're movie actors, and they kind of go around in different circles. And he was killed by, how can I put it? Was it Jesse the Body Ventura, mayor or governor of Minneapolis? Shot him to death in that thing, so he got killed by a wrestler, which is kind of ironic. But he was a good character, very good totalitarian villain for that. And then you got Edgar Friendly, played by Dennis Leary. Dennis Leary apparently at the beginning of filming was terrified because he hadn't really done like any kind of big films or anything, and hadn't starred against any kind of major stars or actors or anything like that, and he was like cacking it. So they said, no, you'll be fine. Then they rewrote the role to suit Dennis Leary. So they wanted him to do his little rants like he'd do as a stand-up comic, and kind of go through things like that. So I think that was fantastic, especially when he does the I want to have high cholesterol and smoke a thing and run through the streets covered naked in jello. It goes, I want this, that, and the other. And it goes, I don't want the future being a man drinking a banana milkshake in a kimono, thinking, oh, I've that. So that was good because I liked Dennis Leary in that part.
Yeah, he was good in the role.
Just some I've got some other points here. So we've got when they were putting the film together, we talked about this beforehand. Sylvester Stallone wanted Jackie Chan to play Simon Phoenix, but he turned it down because he didn't want to play a villain. I think it was probably that time in like movie history where people weren't really up for playing villains and stuff like that.
He was worried about how the Chinese market would take it, how the Chinese audiences would take it, because he obviously has a huge career in China. I mean, he's knocked out gazillions of bloody Chinese kung fu movies, and he was worried how the Chinese audience would take him playing a baddie. That's what he was quoted as saying. I don't think it would have worked with Jackie Chan as the bad guy. I love Jackie Chan, but this, no.
No, Wesley Snipes was so much superior in comparison. Then there apparently, it would have been a fucking terrible movie. We had Steven Seagal and Jean-Claude Van Damme were supposed to be the original duo, but they couldn't work out who was going to play the bad guy. And again, they had the thing where they didn't want to play the bad guy. They wanted Steven Seagal to play the bad guy. I watched a video by a guy called John Tron about Steven Seagal recently. It's fucking hilarious because Steven Seagal looks out of place everywhere he fucking goes. I couldn't see that working because those two haven't got enough. They're quite good action stars, but they haven't got enough charisma to be movie stars, if that makes sense.
No.
And I think that would have been a completely different movie. It would have.
I think Jean-Claude Van Damme, he was never the greatest. He was a movie star. And he does. When you see him interviewed,
the movie star is the complete package. Yeah, they've got the charisma, they've got physical presence. They've got skill.
I would argue
they can do the action scenes.
Yeah, but then Stallone. Okay, Stallone is probably a better actor, but he is limited in some ways. Although, in his earlier career, although I have to say he was utterly robbed of the supporting. Oscar for
Oscars aren't the best actors or anything. You know that, don't you?
But I mean, because they gave it to
self-congratulatory wanks on behalf of Hollywood.
Yeah, it is.
Right?
But he deserved a nod.
No, he didn't. He didn't because the people loved him, and that's nuts. He doesn't need to have a fucking statue. People loved him. People saw.
I think he deserved something because he was brilliant.
Anyway, what's it called? Creed.
Creed, yeah, utterly brilliant.
All right. Anyway, let's get back to this. The voice of the computer was voiced by a person called Adriana Balbo, who also voiced the computer in one of my favourite films of all time, The Thing, which I always found it really weird in The Thing that they had a computer with a voice because it was kind of set in the early 80s, and I know he liked killing the chess computer with pouring thing into it. Another interesting fact, San Angeles was the original name of the city that Blade Runner was going to get set in.
I think I knew that. I think that rings a bell. Wasn't that in the novel?
I have no idea. I've only seen Blade Runner 5 times, and I can't. And there was no mention of it in that. So I've never read the.
What version of Blade Runner have you seen? Because I've seen Blade Runner
original theatre one like 3 times, no 4 times, and the director's cut once.
But there's 2 director's cuts, isn't there?
There's fuck off.
There's about 3 or 4 fucking different versions of the film. I have seen most of them. There was different versions. He was forced to, because at one point Deckard was dreaming. It's a long story. I'm sure I knew that fact. That rings a bell from somewhere.
Deckard's not replicable.
Say again?
Deckard's not replicable.
Well, in the director's cut,
it's more it makes him more interesting if he's not a replicant and he's doing this of his own free will.
And the latter film, the sequel heavily implies it.
I know.
Heavily implies it.
It's got fucking Jared
heavily implies it.
Anyway, let's go to a really mad one. Apparently, in Kuwait, the Arabic title for Demolition Man was Rambo the Destroyer, as your wife runs past and then she runs back out.
Sorry, I know what she's done. She's left her phone on charge in here, and she needed it.
Oh dear. But Rambo the Destroyer. Could you imagine seeing a film called Rambo the Destroyer, and you're thinking, "Wow, another Rambo film." You turn up and you watch it, and it's nothing fucking like Rambo. The character's name is Kuwaiti poster.
Kuwaiti film title. Yeah, I saw this. Rambo the Destroyer.
Yes.
Well, because they only knew him as Rambo, didn't they? And he does kind of wear the beret.
Yeah, but it's not Rambo.
No, I know. Well, he's not John Rambo, but he's kind of.
Anyway.
He's John. Yes,
anyway,
I did see that. That did make me Google.
Okay, so we go back to that original explosion. That building was the Belknap Hardware and Manufacturing Company in Louisville, Kentucky, which got blown up. And MTV held a movie tie-in competition in which the grand prize winner got to press the button on the explosion. I would have fucking loved that. That's an
Awesome.
Instagram. That's a fucking Instagram post. You're like this, and behind you is a properly exploding building. That's the shame they didn't have it in those days. It's one of those. It's one of those kind of cool things when it's like you think of the explosion in The Dark Knight, yeah, where what's-his-much blows up the hospital, and that's a real explosion. That looked fucking gorgeous, and this looked gorgeous, and it's weird that movie people have to go and find a building that requires demolitions that can actually.
I've got a story about that one. Right? Of blowing up buildings. You remember the Paddock? They blew that up.
They blew the Paddock up.
I've told you this story before.
Why would they blow the Paddock up? They could just knock a wall over. The whole thing would just fall over like straw.
So for the people viewing at home, I at one point when I was living where I was, there was literally a pub within shooting distance of my house, literally staggering distance. And there would be many a lock-in. I'd come back at 4 o'clock in the morning and my father would be going to work and I'd be walking in pissed as a fart. But anyway, they decided to knock this pub down to build Tesco's. And some clever fucking one from Channel 4 was filming a documentary about the Guildford 4 or the Birmingham 6. And they needed to film the interior of a pub exploding. So they did. But they didn't tell anyone. Or at least they didn't tell me. And there I am with a couple of mates having a crafty spliff on the corner. And the Paddock exploded with a big fireball coming out of the roof. And I thought World War III had fucking started. And hit the fucking deck. But yes. Witnessed that, and it was done really late, and it pissed off quite a lot of residents. But it was like 10 o'clock at night as well. It was fucking fireball. But yes, had I not been slightly stoned, I might have appreciated it more. But I would have liked to have pressed the button on that explosion, because explosion in the film, the whole fucking thing goes, doesn't it?
Yes,
it's quite an awesome
explosion. It is one of the all-time best actual building explosions that I think I've seen. It's fabulous. Another thing to note: there's a bit in the film where they go to Taco Bell. Now, I'm not going to go into the whole Taco Bell Pizza Hut thing at the moment, but Sandra Bullock is wearing like a diamond encrusted dress thing, and apparently that weighed about 40 pounds, according to my notes. And during one of the fight sequences, she jumps up and she rips a fucking great big hole in the dress. So she spends the rest of the scene with her arms like this. You can't say it like this to hold her dress in, because the whole thing just got shredded to pieces. The funny thing with the Taco Bell thing is what the version that I watched had Taco Bell in it.
Same here.
Yeah, and apparently there's a European version and an Australian version which didn't have Taco Bell, which had Pizza Hut in it. Which, when you watch the dub over, it looks fucking horrendous. And they did really bad effects on the car as well, I think. Yeah. So when we watched the thing, because for people who don't know, Taco Bell at the time was like, how can I put it? Like eating for us in the UK, it's like eating kebab food. Yeah. All right, it's nasty and cheap, and we've had a few beers. It's fucking gorgeous. I think that's the best way of putting it. And it doesn't come out the other end very well either. And I actually like Taco Bell, and I like tacos and burritos and Mexican food and whatnot. And it's weird because the last 3 times I've been to the States, I haven't got around to having a proper Taco Bell. But then again, my stomach and my guts appreciate it. And I think we have. Certain ginger person on, he says it's his favourite film. Well done, Nigel. You have good taste. So yeah, we've got that. So yeah, she did that. Apparently, another scene you've got in the underground garage where you've got the scraps, the throwaways from society. Stallone meets Edgar Friendly properly for the first time, and scrawled on the wall on the air duct overhead is a Hungarian swear word which means horse penis. But it's got a T on the end of it, which actually means fuck no. which is also another reference to Blade Runner, which Edward James, almost character, says to Harrison Ford. Not as interesting, but this next one actually pissed me off because I can see the DNA of Demolition Man from other science fiction bits. Hungarian science fiction writer Esteban Ramirez said that most of Demolition Man is based on his novel Holtak or Fight of the Dead, which he published in 1986. No, don't fucking quiz me on this, right? In the novel, a terrorist and a counter-terrorism soldier are cryogenically frozen and then awakened in the 22nd century to find that violence has been purged from society. Now, I don't want to sound rude to Mr. whatever it is. I can cite several science fiction bits that have a similar thing to that. Let's have a look. Let's start with the first time-traveling story of all time, The Time Machine by H.G. Wells, where he goes into the future, and you have the Eloi, where they have removed all violence and stuff from that. And then you've got Brave New World, where everyone is drugged up and is having sex constantly. Again, a similar thing to that. And then you talk about criminals being defrosted from the past. I give you the episode of Star Trek where you first meet Khan, all before 1986. Okay, and I'm sure there is another story about two criminals being frozen and being defrosted, and I think that even happened before. Well, maybe that was in Next Generation. But that stuff was that stuff already existed in pieces. So you can see the DNA from pop culture like Star Trek and Brave New World and The Time Machine and bits, etc. Whatever his name is, Hungarian writer, claimed that he could prove that 75% of the movie was identical to his book. But then again, that 75% might be identical to other books too. He chose not to sue.
Science fiction usually shares a lot of similarities
because it's like flipping bits over and stuff inside it. I find that quite amusing in regards to all those things for Demolition Man. I have to say, I really enjoyed the crap out of it. It's a bit more relevant now than I think it was then, because when they put it together, they looked at it and went, okay, the future, if the way we're going with political correctness, we're all going to be a bunch of pussies by the time we get to the future, and our action heroes from now aren't just going to be as relevant, but they're still going to be able to kick ass and still have things. And it's like the bit at the end where you've got the authoritarian state that looks over people and checks all their emails and this, that, and checks all their emails, checks all the communications and polices their language and this, that, and the other. And then you've got the kind of libertarian side, which is the Dennis Leary's Edgar Friendly character, where they're living underground and they're free to do whatever they want. The problem is society's got the shit side. And it's great because old John Barton turns around and goes, you get a little bit cleaner, you get a little bit dirtier, and somewhere in the middle we'll meet, which I think is probably quite a positive thing from it. But it's like the speech police thing when you look at Twitter, Facebook and stuff, where they're checking your posts, and even YouTube when we're doing streams and stuff and they check our bloody posts and whatnot. It's not good.
It's scary how some of it is right. I love the Arnie Schwarzenegger line in there as well, where they say President Schwarzenegger. They weren't far off the truth. There was
he can't be president because he wasn't born in the United States.
Yeah, but there has been an attempt to allow naturalized Americans to be able to become president.
I don't even think that having. I think your parents also have to be American citizens too.
As it stands,
not that I've tried invading the country or figuring out how I would be president of the United States, but I'm sure there's some ruling that your parents also have to be full US citizens, but they don't have to be. They don't have to, because it's like allegiance and stuff like that. But that was a funny
American
nod.
Citizens, but I don't think they have to have been born in America.
But the one who's going
the
for
candidate does. Did you see the fact about the cars in the?
What the GM provided all the cars for free. Yeah.
But did you see how much they were worth?
How much were they worth? I didn't see that.
Right. Okay. So basically, there was a number of cars that they had, and they were real concept cars. And I'd seen one at the London Motor Show. and they were capable at the time of doing 100 miles to a gallon of fuel, which was amazing back then. Now there's a lot of cars that are capable of that, but back then it was quite incredible. And yeah, these cars were worth a hell of a lot of money. And in actual fact, the cars were insured for $69 million, which is nearly the fucking budget of the film.
Yeah.
So, and this was at the time, it was literally $1 million off the budget of the film. So, but yes, GM did provide them for free, but they were meant to be electric in the future, and they're not. They're all petrol-driven cars.
I can imagine just how easy it would be that, especially when they're doing like filming and stuff. They don't want to be sitting there having to charge a battery for 6 hours. What I find funny is that Demolition Man does predict a few future things right.
Yes.
And the first notable thing I noticed was GPS in the cars.
Yep.
I only noticed that when I watched it recently. It's like, oh, I got sat nav. It's like, no. The closest he had to that was probably the Jurassic Park interactive screen.
Yeah.
Which was interesting. So they had that. They had the handheld computers. Okay, not like our phones, because they had like a freaking stick on it and a massive screen. Then they had video calling, which I thought was also quite novel.
Self-driving cars.
Self-driving cars, yeah. Self-driving electric cars too. And then, cracky, that was... I try to remember these things. I made a note of all the big things, but it was self-driving cars, thingy, having a police speech on Twitter and Facebook, I suppose, could be considered one. Oh, video conferencing. Apart from their video conferencing looks much cooler than what we've got for fucking Zoom meetings and team meetings, where they had the screens where the people would sit and then they like follow you around the room. That was like
it looked a bit like the Babylon 5 video conferencing as well, because that was a bit hooky as well, but you forgive it because
they were both in 1993, so I think the pilot was B5 was 92 and they started filming in 93. So yeah, they had those aspects for it. That was quite good. And then it was like kind of all the video calling and stuff, just regular video calling. But yeah, there was also a subplot that was taken out of it, and it's a weird because I accidentally deleted it out of my notes. It just says subplot removed, and the subplot. This was this is the John Spartan's daughter's storyline. Yeah. So in the story, he wakes up and asks about his family, and they say that his wife died in a horrible kind of earthquake, and his daughter's still alive, and they could find her. But he didn't say anything because he figured that she would be disgusted by him, like Huxley and the others were, and didn't want to do anything with him. But originally, she was in the story, and you can still see her in the film because she's standing next to Edgar Friendly in the last shot, where she then kind of reveals herself. But I think they were right to remove it because I think it would fuck with the ending a bit. Just a bit. If they would have put her in a couple of times beforehand and noticed things like she'd being followed around by some weirdo or something along those lines, that may have worked. But I get what they were trying to do with it, but pacing-wise, it does seem a little weird that it's like kind of, oh, I need to see my daughter. We can find your daughter. No, don't find my daughter. Let's give up on my daughter. I'll go and kill Wesley Snipes now. So yeah, that was I thought was kind of a set. I can understand where they were coming from in regards to removing that from the story. What other things was the something about piano player? I can't remember.
I didn't find anything else. You've covered everything. You've covered everything.
Do you know what the funny thing is? I went on YouTube. I watched a ton of videos in regards to Demolition Man. One of them was about the kind of about politics behind it, which I kind of avoided because I kind of want to keep things a little fun for something we're watching, because there's definitely relevant stuff in comparison to what we've got today. And then I found a load of other videos, and I took most of the notes, and then I went to the IMDb trivia page. And it was like I was going through this, and pretty much I'd taken all the notes, and they were all on the IMDb page. And I thought I should have just gone to the fucking IMDb page.
Sometimes you get stuff that's not on IMDb. I mean, Stallone mentioned in May 2020 that he's working on a sequel.
Yes, I did see that, but I've given the fact that everyone's doing a sequel or a TV show or an animated series at the moment, getting space and stuff, and I think Hollywood, as in. So in Los Angeles kind of area, I think is going to die, and you're going to get a lot of Canadian stuff, a lot of Georgia stuff, etc., and lots of stuff filmed away from actual Los Angeles. So the Hollywood part of it's going to disappear. I'm a bit kind of worried about that getting kind of bits and that. I'd hate to think old John Spartan and Lenina Huxley hanging out. What's that going to be like? It's going to be really weird.
I don't see how this would work as a sequel. I think, you know, the last Rocky film was a bit of a disappointment, but I've enjoyed Creed, and I wish they'd done Creed and not done the Rocky film. I haven't seen the last Rambo film, but by all accounts, it's not great. But the Rambo that was supposedly in Vietnam, but was shot mostly here, that was actually reasonably quite good. But his last Rocky film wasn't brilliant, in my opinion. Whereas his performances as Rocky as like a supporting character in Creed and Creed 2 were really good. I don't see how you can do a sequel to this film. I think it should be left well alone. It's a great, fun action film, and I really enjoyed it when I watched it, and I'd forgotten how much I enjoyed this one. And I was laughing, you know, especially at some of the sort of really cheesy action sequences in it, and there are some, especially at the beginning, the bit where he bungee jumps out the helicopter. It's fucking cheesy as hell, but it's brilliant. Yeah, it's just 2 hours of fun. And I don't think you can do that with old Sylvester Stallone. I mean, if you want to do another action movie, Mr. Stallone, do another what's the one? Oh, what are they called? The ones where they've had all the actions, the Expendables. Do another Expendables movie. I'd watch the shit out of that. I like the Expendable movies. I think they're great.
Yeah. I recommend watching it. It's available on Netflix now in the UK. I think it probably is in the States too. It's well watching just for watching Wesley Snipes. Wesley Snipes and that is just
he's
fabulous.
Yeah.
This is best. I think it's his best role, and he just fucking chewed everything up. And
it's his best role of that era. I still think
the gay character that he played on that Netflix special was
I think his gay character in Dolomite just shows off how good he is as an actor, because he was often criticized for playing sort of similar roles. You know, he did movies for, you know, he did Blade and things like that, and Demolition Man back then. But then he went and did, I'm sure it was To Wong Fu. Thanks a lot, Judy Luma. I think that was the name of the film, and it had Patrick Swayze in it as well. And I'm sure he played a drag queen in that. But I like him as an actor. I think he's a very good actor, and he was underrated. And you know, he's come since his imprisonment. He's come back, and I think he's doing more interesting roles. But no, I agree with you that he is the standout sort of thing about this film, and had he not been in this film, the film wouldn't have worked.
Yeah,
I totally agree with you on that. I love him. I mean, but even in this film, you can tell he's having a lot of fun.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
I think that made the film. I think the fact that sounds really awful, that the stunt people were playing with him after filming for fights and stuff, I think probably made it. I think that was something that he probably enjoyed the crap out of. I know if I was in his position and people were going out that way, I probably would enjoy that too. But yes, the cameras are better now, Wesley. We probably better fight at normal speed. Or we better slow it down so everyone can see what's going on. So, I think that's where we're going to wrap it up for this one. So,
yes.
So thank you for watching, and we'll catch you in the next episode of Fast Food Films. Just realised it said we'll be back.